So starting off gaseous exchange, so the first question for gaseous exchange, which might come in your paper, is why we need the system of gaseous exchange. So gaseous exchange is a it's a very complex system where your sinuses are involved, your trachea is involved, your bronchi, lungs. So this is a part of your gaseous exchange, and we'll study which gases are continuously exchanged. Obviously, there are going to be oxygen and carbon dioxide, but initially the question arises why we need this entire system. So there are four reasons that you can mention, and this question might come for 4 marks as well, because so this is a very simpler question. You just understand these 4 pointers, and you'll be good to go. So initially we need the system so that our air which is entering our nasal sinuses, it could get clean and it could get warm. Okay, so in order to clean and warm up the air which is entering our sinuses during breathing, we need gaseous exchange system. Then the surface area for diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the blood and atmosphere. So this system basically maximizes the surface area for effective diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide, meaning that carbon dioxide has to be exhaled out and oxygen has to be inhaled. And these gases are exchanged between your blood and atmosphere. So obviously from atmosphere we are getting oxygen, and in the blood we have a higher concentration of carbon dioxide that needs to be removed. So this is why we need the system. Then we need gaseous exchange system to minimize the distance for this diffusion. So we know from our O levels that diffusion, for effective diffusion to take place, the distance should be smaller, right? So in order to minimize the distance for the diffusion or for the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen, we need the system of gaseous exchange, and then to maintain adequate gradients for this diffusion. So these are the factors that influence your diffusion. That the distance should be smaller, and the surface area should be in a maximum amount, and then your gradient should be steep enough. So all these factors contribute to the fact that why we need a proper gaseous exchange system. Then you need to understand the system. Basically, they don't ask you to label it. Obviously, it's very easy, but you need to understand which of the components are involved in your gaseous exchange system. You understand the fact that you have trachea, which is your windpipe. Then you understand the fact the trachea then divides into bronchus. It divides into two bronchus, one for left region and one for right region. And those bronchus or bronchi, they further divide into terminal bronchioles, and attached to terminal bronchioles, we have this alveoli, and alveoli is also connected with an alveolar duct. So they also ask you this question that which muscles are involved in gaseous exchange system. So you need to mention intercostal muscle and external costal muscles are involved in your gaseous exchange system. Then you need to understand that we have these pleural membranes which surround the lungs, and you need to understand that alveoli is the site where gaseous exchange takes place. Okay, so we get deoxygenated blood from our body through pulmonary circulation, and then our deoxygenated blood, it gets oxygenated, and then the blood is returned back to heart for systemic circulation to take place. Okay. Okay. Now, we are diving more into the organs which are involved in gaseous exchange system. It was an overview of whatever we have done so far. Now we are moving ahead, and we'll talk about lungs, which are obviously the major and the most important organ for gaseous exchange system. And you need to understand where lungs exactly are located. So if this question might come for MCQs, where lungs are located, so you need to mark thoracic chest cavity. Okay, they might give you chest or they might give you thoracic cavity. And this is the site where lungs are placed. And they're surrounded by the pleural membranes, like we just mentioned, and they are enclosed in an airtight space. That this airspace this airtight space contains a small quantity of fluid. It is known as pleural fluid to allow friction-free movement as the lungs are ventilated by the movement of diaphragm and ribs. Then we have trachea, which is a windpipe, which divides into bronchi, and bronchi further divides into bronchioles. And attached with bronchioles, we have alveoli. So, uh, talking about the significance of trachea, obviously it's important, and from the throat to the lungs is the trachea, which is your windpipe. And at the base of the trachea are two bronchi. They divide into left and right side, and then they subdivide and branch extensively and form a bronchial tree in each lung. So each bronchus divides many times to form smaller bronchioles. Okay, so this is also a question which comes in paper one, where they ask you to correctly identify the sequence, meaning it should be trachea, then bronchi, then bronchioles, and then your alveoli. Okay? So sometimes the options could be alveoli, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles. So you need to understand that TBBA is your correct sequence. Yani trachea, then bronchi, then bronchioles, then alveoli. So this is an essential question where they give you this question to identify the correct sequence. So BB, you could change this mnemonic into BR. BR could represent bronchi, and you could change the other B into BL, which represent bronchioles. Okay? I'm not sure how are you going to remember this mnemonic, but whatever is safe for you, you can make your own mnemonic. But do not forget this one. This is an important 1 mark question of your MCQ paper. Then your bronchioles further divide into terminal bronchioles, and then they divide to form even narrower respiratory bronchioles that supply the alveoli with air. And then cartilage in the, so you also need to remember that trachea has incomplete C-shaped cartilage. You can write this some, okay, it's written over here. Okay. Cartilage in the trachea and bronchi. So you need to remember that cartilage is present in trachea and in bronchi. It's not present in bronchioles. Because so everything which I'm underlining in this slide, it's important for your P1. You can take a screenshot of this once I'm done. These questions are very important with respect to your P1. I'm repeating it again and again. You'll find these questions in your P1. You'll not find these questions in your P2. Okay? So take a screenshot of it. Cartilage in the trachea and bronchi keep these airways open, and air resistance low and prevents them from collapsing or bursting as the air pressure changes during breathing. So a question in P2 might come that why is cartilage present in trachea and bronchi? I haven't seen it so far in all the past papers, but this question might come. Okay? So you need to remember that cartilage is there in trachea and bronchi to keep airways open, number one, and to prevent them from collapsing or bursting as the air pressure changes during breathing. Okay? These might be the two reasons which you could answer. So this question might come for P2, and you need to prepare it in the same manner. Then in the trachea, there's a regular arrangement of C-shaped cartilage, rings of, okay, C-shaped rings of cartilage. In the bronchi, there are irregular blocks of cartilage instead. So this is one tiny difference, that in trachea, we have regular arrangement of C-shaped ring cartilage, and in bronchi, there are irregular blocks of cartilage. So a regular arrangement is found in trachea, and an irregular blocks of cartilage arrangement is present in bronchi. Okay, so take a screenshot of this. This is important. These questions are present in your P1. Then we have alveoli. Okay, so this is very important. This question might come in P2, and essentially it comes in P1, but it has potential to come in P2 as well. And they might ask you about alveoli, and these are all 4 pointers that should be in your answer script. So starting off with alveoli, they ask this journal question that alveoli is lined by which of the following? So your answer should be it is lined by squamous epithelium. So this is simple squamous epithelium because epithelium has two categories. It could be simple and it could be stratified. So at this stage, we're not going to study about stratified. Inshallah, when you'll go into medical school, then you'll further understand the difference between simple and stratified. But at this stage, just understand that alveoli are lined by squamous epithelium. So what is meant by squamous? I'm just explaining you in a brief manner. Is squamous is something like this. In this manner, you will find in squamous epithelium arrangement. Okay, and in middle, a dot might be present. So this is how we say that your alveoli are lined by squamous epithelium. That gives a short diffusion distance for the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is present in our deoxygenated blood, while oxygen is the inhaled air, which is then mixed in our blood and it gets oxygenated. Then alveoli are well supplied with blood by many capillaries surrounding the gas exchange surface. Then the constant flow of blood and continuous ventilation of the lungs maintain concentration gradients between blood and air for oxygen and carbon dioxide. Recoil of elastic fibers surrounding Recoil of elastic fibers surrounding the alveoli helps to move air out during expiration. So a question that might come for alveoli could be that how is alveoli adapted um, to contribute in gaseous exchange system. So these are the reasons and these are the factors which make it adaptive for a perfectly organized gaseous exchange system where you'll mention that it is lined by squamous epithelium and it's essential to give a shorter diffusion distance for effective exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Number one reason. Number two, alveoli are well supplied with blood by many capillaries that surround the gas exchange surface. Number two. Number three, you need to essentially mention that alveoli has elastic fibers which surround the alveoli. And since it's elastic in nature, it could occupy a little bit of more volume. And it's essential for it to be elastic rather than something which has collagen in it. So anything which will have collagen, it will give a tensile strength, but we need alveoli to be in an elastic manner so that it could increase its volume to help move air out during expiration. Okay. So all right. So this is a very important diagram, and yeah, this is something which is a part of your P2. So do not ignore these diagrams. These are very important diagrams. So this diagram is a light micrograph of a part of your trachea in transverse section. The lining is comprised of ciliated epithelium, which rests on basement membrane made of protein fibers. In between the ciliated cells are goblet cells, hair stained blue. So they might give you this diagram and you'll have to label that where goblet cells are present. Do not worry about the function of goblet cells. I'll explain it, but first understand the labeling of it. So the blue labelings are your goblet cells, and beneath the epithelium is an area of loose tissue with blood vessels and mucus gland. So here you need to understand to where goblet cells are present, where cilia is present, and this is the histological picture. This is a transverse section, and it's a light micrograph. But this one is a histological picture and you can see it right after cilia. This is cilia, right? The hair-like structures are cilia, and beneath it you can find goblet cells, and beneath goblet cells you can find mucus cells. Okay, mucus glands. Sorry. So after cilia, you can find goblet cells, and then after goblet cells, so these are goblet cells. Goblet cells are larger in size, but your mucus glands, they're smaller in size. Okay, so the smaller ones are mucus glands, the larger ones are goblet cells. And okay, all right. Then they might also give you this diagram where you'll be supposed to identify, okay, which is this. Yani the labeling might not be there and you'll be expected to label it. So if you'll see these big gaps, and you need to immediately identify that these large gaps are alveoli of lungs and they're lined by simple squamous epithelium. Okay, so you need to understand a large gap. If you see large gaps, then these are alveoli of lungs, and alveoli of lungs are surrounded by simple squamous epithelium. Okay. All right. So let's take a 10 minutes break and then we'll do goblet cells and mucus gland.